Hi, Ryu. Join me, won't you, while we play an ad and do my beginning of stream posting that I'm beginning stream stuff. Yes. The recipe, well, you didn't post the recipe, you just posted the name of the thing. But the one you posted when I was looking stuff up looked real interesting. So we're going to go for it. I'm going to make a few tweaks to the one I found. But, good suggestion. And we're going to wait for that ad to roll. Who knows? The ads might already be done. For some reason I'm blanking on where all of these are every day. That's the ad over. That's because normally I unmute when I open up the. Normally I unmute, but I was talking to you during the thing, so I had it unmuted. So when I opened the thing up and I hit unmute, it instead did the mute. Um, uh, I'm low volume. Uh, I'm not low volume on me. Can anyone else confirm low volume? My thing says I'm at normal volume. I did have a weird audio problem right at the start, right before I started, where it wasn't picking up my mic at all, and I had to reset everything. So maybe that screwed something up. I could try rebooting the Rode receiver. Well, in the meantime, until somebody says something one way or another about that, we get some stuff out. Today, well, yesterday, I got a piece of swordfish for $5, which is pretty cheap. It wasn't use it or lose it bargain bin either. It was just on sale, normal on sale. So that seemed like a pretty appealing deal to me. So I grabbed it and then asked you guys what you thought I should do with it. And we're going with Raivia's suggestion, which was the thing in the title that I'm not sure quite how to pronounce. Um, and here's our piece of swordfish, as it says, reduced. it's quite a large piece. It's an inch thick steak, which is good. I've used thinner pieces of swordfish in the past, and I run into the same problem with it as I run into with tuna and with beef, is that you really don't want to overcook it. You want a rare, medium rare, middle, because much like tuna, it will get tough and chalky. You know, that sort of dry tuna texture. It'll get that texture. Swordfish and shark have both done that to me, which is the same reason you don't want your beef cooked right through like that, because it's the same fundamental process. The muscle fibers in the middle, because these animals are quite large, the muscles are quite strong, the muscles are quite dense. When the fibers dry out and contract like that, you get really sort of tough meat. It manifests in slightly different ways between fish and beef animals, land beef, but it's the same basic idea. So what we would like, ideally, is to cook this like a big steak, a big, low-fat steak. So we want a seared outside, and we want ideally a nice sort of rare interior. That's the goal. The recipe that I need to re-pull up because I reboot everything when I slide in here. So I gotta grab that and pull up my recipe again. Recipe sounded very interesting because it is a seared steak like that is then set aside. You're constructing a sauce, and then you're putting the already seared steak into the sauce, not to cook it, but to rewarm it. So that it doesn't actually have to be served. It can rest on its own and then get returned into a sauce just to get it up to warm without recooking it, which honestly is a thing I think you could probably do with beef as well. Get it cooked perfectly and then braise. The thing says braise. It's not really braised because we're not bringing it up to a cooking temperature again after we've already cooked it. And it is a nice size steak. Like when I saw this for $5, and it only goes about that far behind the label there, but that's a pretty substantial piece. I'm probably going to have leftovers unless I really want to. I need to not eat the entire thing when I make something enormous. We could also probably cut this in half and do one half of it and save the other half or something. But it's not use it or lose it, but it's use by tomorrow. So if I do that, then I'm having another one tomorrow, which wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Have swordfish twice, not the worst idea. So that's our main event. I was originally thinking of serving it with a vegetable, because you just don't just want a piece of meat. The sauce is pretty vegetable-y. Well, no, the sauce is all fruit. So the sauce is pretty fruity, because it's tomatoes and olives and capers. I still want an accompaniment. The thing is, this thing is so huge, I don't really want a big accompaniment. I was thinking asparagus. Now, I can't find really nice asparagus anymore. It looked like we're already into kind of later asparagus season stuff, which is shocking to me that it went so fast. But with the way the weather's been, I suppose I shouldn't be surprised. I also have a piece of broccoli. We could do a broccoli side. I was also thinking potentially pasta, because the sauce that we're making for this piece of fish is kind of a chunky, salty tomato sauce, because it's got olives and capers and coarsely chunked tomatoes, which might be a good pasta sauce. I don't know that I would want to just. Somewhere in my head, I had pictured searing this thing up, slicing it real thin, and using it um, uh, like the way you present a katsu on top of a bowl of rice or a bowl of noodle, which is not how the Sicilians would do it. It should be, for this recipe, served as a whole steak. My refrigerator fan is buzzing again. If that bugs you, please let me know. I will see what I can do about it. But it should be pretty soft, just barely on the bottom edge. Also, none of this is going to take massively long, so I'm not worried about doing some brainstorming here at the top. I do have our capers, a can of plum tomatoes, Italian brand, gluten-free. And then I went and picked up these special because the recipe wanted this kind of olives, and I had to get this kind of olives. Castelvetrano. I think the sauce would go well on rice. That's what I was picturing, was doing it as a bowl. You know what we could do? The sauce, I don't know if the sauce would go well on rice. I don't know that it would go well on rice, but you know what's like rice, but also like pasta? Couscous. And I have couscous. We could serve this with couscous to get that rice bowl look. And then I think the couscous would do a really good job of pairing with our flavors because it has that pasta-y flavor, because it's a wheat-based thing. I think that's the direction if we want to go with a bowl type thing. We could even serve it in a Japanese style bowl to really emphasize. And then I would still want a vegetable on the side, which again, I have asparagus, I have broccoli, I have bok choy. We could use any of those. Carrots. I don't want to do carrots this time. What's that? Those are dry mushrooms. Okay. I think we're assembling a notion. So we're doing this recipe, but we're tweaking it. Okay. Quick. I think we're gonna have enough pickly stuff between the olives and the capers. I think this is going to be briny, salty enough that I don't think I want to accompany it with another briny thing. Because again, fish is a low-fat meat, especially a big slice like this. This isn't toro. This isn't belly cut. Okay, I think I know where we're taking this. You know what would be nice is some radish, a little bit of radish. I don't have any radish. Can't do radish. Can't do radish. Poking around. What have we got? Citrus. Dried citrus. Okay. I have the notion. So I should start motioning the. No, that's not. Let's see. How much couscous is in one of these little boxes? A ton. We're getting out the big jar of it instead. I'm going to need the flour tower as well. So I'll just bring that in. Couscous was behind it, but I'm going to need the flour tower as well. So we'll just bring that in. Couscous also lives in a tower. We don't get to see it as often, but couscous lives in this tower. I got a large quantity of it on a discount at some point and just stuck it in a jar. Called it a day. If I recall, you just need to boil water. Couscous is like really easy to put together. So we can do it right at the end without even much having to think about it. Okay, we're gonna start cooking. We're gonna get out all of our ingredients. How much garlic have I got? This one. We got pretty gnarly looking garlic. All my stuff started going gnarly and sprouting, of course, because it's spring, but it has bugged me. This one was much more recent. So happy spring. All my potatoes sprouted. All my potatoes sprouted. Even though I keep them in the dark. They must have noticed. Just got a notification in Discord. Oh, it's because I turned off streamer mode in order to get the Discord link. We'll just close it. Garlic, olives, tomatoes, capers, red onion, olive oil, pine nuts, parsley, red wine vinegar, sugar, red wine vinegar, red wine vinegar. Oh, how much that left? I feel like this recipe wants a white wine though. So let's grab a white wine. I've got a Chardonnay I use for cooking. And then, yes. I think we're going to go with a white wine. And that's, well, the pine nuts, which I do have pine nuts, weirdly enough. They're one of the oddball ingredients I've got hanging around that I never use. Which means I don't remember exactly where I've got pine nuts, but they're in here somewhere. While I'm looking for the pine nuts, how's it going today? What's new or old that you haven't, that I haven't heard about? I don't know where the pine nuts are. Wasn't expecting to use pine nuts. Didn't get them out. Oh, I have cured olives as well. Artichoke hearts. Oh, yeah. I'm going to use up some of this stuff. Where did I put those? Where, oh where could my pine nuts be? They're in a little tiny jar, which means they get lost behind various larger jars. Lime juice, fish juice, black juice. It's black food coloring. Other fish, big fish. I got too much stuff. We might skip the pine nuts so I can't find them. This is too bad because this would be a good excuse to use them. Because I never use them. Put them over here. No, I did not put them over here. Black garlic, filet powder, peanut powder, dashi, star anise, sumac, mustard, rosemary, basil, chamoy sauce, garlic oil, cane syrup. Nope, I don't think I'm going to have to pull this whole apart if I want to find them. They're buried in here somewhere. Unless they're behind the lemons. Preserved lemon? No. They've just revealed themselves. Pine nuts. And you've all left in the time it took me to find pine nuts. Okay, that's all the elements. If I want to do couscous bowl with like a grilled vegetable. Okay. Interestingly, there's no garlic in this recipe. There's no chili flakes in this recipe. It's kind of a milder recipe. I am putting garlic in because I want to. Get this open. And also interestingly, it's asking me to dredge my steak here in flour, but just flour. So we're going to do that right in the tray here. I assume this has something to do with ensuring the surface isn't very moist. As I turn this, you can see how massively thick this steak is. If you can get it, this is the kind of thickness you want big piece of meat type things to be cut to. You'll often have to ask for such a cut. This one obviously was already cut this way because it was in a package like this. But I too typically find them thinly cut. And having cooked the thin ones in the past, they do kind of want to break down or overcook, break down the nice interior if you cook them that way. This one also has a skin on one side, which we're going to deal with. We're just going to have to function with skin on one side. We're also going to cook this right away. First thing we're going to do is cook this. Step 1. Make sure you've got a pan that the steak will fit into without crowding, that you can also flip. We might go with the big pan, or we might go with a stainless, because then I can build the sauce in it. I don't want to build a tomato-based sauce in a cast iron. So I think we're going to use this one because I can build the sauce in here without worrying about it. I don't want to build a tomato-based sauce in a cast iron because the tomato is very acidic and will, for the process of making a sauce, will start to eat my seasoning layer. To keep the olive oil out, we're going to need that. Or I could use 2 different pans. That's also an option. We'll get that pan heating up. We'll put the flour tower away. Yeah, I've done that before too. I usually leave them until I get until it gets to the point where it bugs me, and then I'll get rid of them. Yeah, they're just spots. They're water spots mostly, because my water is rather hard. But also, they disappear when you put oil on them. We're going to need a plate to catch our steak once we take it off. We're going to let that pan get hot, verge of smoking. So what's going on? How's things? One, I was briefly muted. Ray, you're first. Congratulations. Glacier, you're not first. Congratulations. And also, happy work. Happy work, Lurk. Oh man, a whole bunch of people showed up. Verge of smoking because I want to get a good sear on the outside pretty quickly, and I want the interior to remain pretty rare. Which means I want this to be hot, and especially since I'm using a thin metal pan now, I want it to be hot enough that it doesn't immediately lose its heat. It doesn't immediately lose all of its heat. I wonder if that pan's even going to be big enough for this. I mean, the steak will fit, but I'm worried about once I try to nestle it in the sauce afterwards, it might actually be too big. I don't have another stainless. I'd have to go to the big cast iron, and again, I don't really want to use. I don't want to do a simmered tomato sauce in a cast iron because it'll eat my seasoning. Yeah, I guess we're stuck with it unless I want to go to one of the high side ones. Or a nonstick. I have a nonstick that's that big. You probably can't quite see it. The oil is starting to flow like water and visibly rippling just from the heat, which is a good sign that your pan is getting hot. We also don't want to use a nonstick because I want to be able to get in underneath this thing with a spatula, and also because I want to develop some fond. Get out our trusty metal spatula. Develop some fond because that will help develop our flavors in our sauce. So we're waiting for the oil to stop visibly rippling and perhaps give us a wisp, just a tiny wisp of smoke. We don't want it to be full on smoking, but we want it to be quite hot. I've got it on 7, which is one tick above medium on my dial here. The dial goes to 11. Oh, we have our wisps of smoke. I see them. I see them. And thus, in goes our steak. We're trusting the sheer size of this steak to protect the middle interior while we develop a good brown crust on the outside. The flour should also help with a nice visibly browned crust. Oh, it smells good immediately. Oh, it smells good immediately. It might stick a little bit, which I am slightly worried about. But hopefully not much. Well, we're getting browning on the outside edge. I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit because we're smoking a little bit. We're smoking a little bit. Just a wee smoke. Are we released? Oh, we are released. Ooh, we've got like leopard spotting, which means I'm going to flip this sucker. We're going to flip this sucker this way. We're going to splash it in our oil, of course. I mean, we're getting a nice sort of color on the outside. That's what I'm going for. So it should be just about that same amount of time on the other side. We can watch the exposed edge to see how high up the sides our sear is getting. And this side, the side that I rolled it over when I flipped it, is the side with the skin on it. I figured the skin would resist accidentally, like, adhering when I flipped it. That's why I flipped it that way. I didn't mean to splash it like that. I should actually clean up the little spot that's there before it goes gooey. But looking pretty good so far. Looking pretty good so far. Let's break out the thermometer. I want to see what we're looking at for the interior. We do need to get it up to a cooked temperature. I want to get you right. I mean, I think we're at rare already, and I don't want to go too much farther than that. So let's take a peek at our bottom side. It's looking good. We're looking good. I'm going to pretend that my skin side is a fat cap and cook us on end a little bit. Otherwise, it's getting pulled and we're going to trust the carryover. It's getting pulled and we're going to trust the carryover. We're going to take that off the heat while we prep other things. Got a little bit of a funny protein on the edge here. That's a result of this having been previously frozen. It kind of loosens up some of the protein in your steak. We're also not worrying about this cooling down, so I'm going to set it. I'm going to put a lid on it, but I'm not going to be really chuffed if it doesn't stay super warm while we do other stuff. Okay, that part was easy, I think. I mean, we'll find out when we get in there. We were just about at temp. I'm going to trust the carryover to get us there. Heat off that pan, and then we just start prepping other stuff. This might be a really short day. This might end up being a really short day. I say that sometimes, and we go really, really long. It specifically calls for, this one specifically calls for, I should say, we're using a Serious Eats recipe for this. There were multiple recipes that come up when I searched for this. Serious Eats seemed like a good, pretty average one, so I went with it. They call specifically for red onion for this. So, red onion, which I don't mind. I like red onion. I think things need to call for red onion specifically more often. I know yellow onion is the standard American onion, but we need to get over ourselves. Trust in red and white onions for the things that they're better at. The yellow onion is the non-committal, middle-of-the-road of onions. Need a better knife. This would also be a good place for a shallot, probably. Which is possibly why Serious Eats requests a red onion, because red onions are more like shallots than all of the other onions. But as you can see, a nice sharp knife. That knife is sharp, but it's also too small to do the slicing motion that I was doing here. And my other knife needs sharpening. I often end up crushing the ends of onions. Because the layers come apart rather than slice through if your knife is slightly dull and kind of pushes instead of just cutting in very nicely. Onion. Bang. Specifically this size of this kind of tomatoes whole. 2 tablespoons of capers. Half a cup of olives. Let's do the olives. I've never had this kind of olives before. It's specifically called for this kind of olives, so I'm going to taste one. See what they're like. They're very green. They do pretty much just taste like olives. They do pretty much just taste like olives, but maybe a little bit less briny. None of these tell me how much their quantity is. I'm gonna eyeball it. We're going to fill this with cut olives. They're a little bit less briny, less vinegar forward than your sort of standard green olive. Which means that they taste a little bit more olivey. Which I don't hate. You kind of get more olive flavor, less just salt brine. Also, I've got olive tongs now. Hey look, olive tongs, being used for their actual intended purpose. That's a mess. Oh no, oh no. Oh, that's a mess. I caught the jar with the side of my hand. Oh, and it's going everywhere. Hold on, hold on, hold on. No. Oh, no, 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 no. Jar. Oh, and that's all the brine from the jar, too. Every last drop of brine from the jar is gone. Hold on. Bear with me. We are, oh, and it got on the garlic. Got on the onions. Hey. Hey, exciting. Except not. It also dumped right onto my spice rack, which is here, directly above the camera. And is made of wood. Oh boy. Okay, cleanup time. Emergency cleanup time. It's a good thing I don't have like a thing in progress right now. Like a steak going. Well, I mean, it's bound to happen. I'm actually surprised how few accidents I do have here on the old show. It's going to be a whole cleanup, but I got to get the sloppy part cleaned up before I do anything else. To wash the thing there. Okay, the whole spice rack's coming down. Living over here until I can deal with it. Yeah, not my finest moment. Again, I'm surprised at how often that doesn't happen. Considering how horribly clumsy I usually am in real life. Fortunately, the cutting board is elevated on its little feet. Although I wasn't here, I'm going to cut these olives so I can wipe off the cutting board, because the cutting board shouldn't be soaking in its brine, and I was going to cut the olives in half. Okay, well, now's a great time to talk about whatever while I deal with this. Also, hi, Bookwoman. Welcome, welcome. Just in time for a disaster. A rare actual, like, mess disaster that, again, the last time this happened, it was a tray of something that tipped over onto the floor. Was it arancini? I feel like I tipped over a tray of uncooked arancini. or something wrapped in balls. Move that, move that, move that. We're dripping over here again. We don't want this to sit long enough for this stuff to soak into our cutting board. We've had problems with that in the past. Okay, cutting board and cutting board feet are dried. That there. Bring the bucket over. Dumping stuff in the bucket. I did not need the brine, but I'm not using all of the olives. And that was all of the brine from the jar of olives. So now there's just going to be some dry olives left in the jar that I guess I have to eat real quick because they are, oh my God, because they are not going to, actually I got a pile of fast food napkins right here. They're not going to keep very well out of their brines. But also, I'm more concerned at the moment about the brine hanging out on any of the things that it got on. I don't want it. It didn't get on any of the electronics, thankfully. But I don't really want it dripping on the floor. I don't want it soaking into my cutting board or spice rack. And I also don't want to step on it. Yeah, we could try something with the remaining olives. They're nice olives. I'm kind of real sad now that they're a different kind of olive that I haven't tried before. You can't see any of what I'm doing. There's no camera angle that leads down here, because why would there be? We don't do foot stuff around here. Oh, I got on all the spice jars. That's just frustrating. Just frustrating. Getting out another paper towel roll. Ooh, I'm actually low on paper towel rolls. Been using a lot of paper towels to clean up all of my nonsense, I guess. Okay, well. How's everyone doing? People who just arrived, saw the mess, saw the disaster. How's it going? I'm kind of happy that the splash of brine went away from me because my whole everything would be soaked in this stuff. We'd be probably listening to me change my socks right now instead of wiping down a spice rack over the sink, which is what I'm doing over here. Here, you guys can look at the back of my head at least. Spice rack in the sink, and I'm just pulling out the spices and wiping the jars down. Because again, I don't want the brine to soak into the rack itself. The spices will be fine. They're in little plastic and glass jars. They will survive. The labels are getting a little bit sad. The labels are getting a little bit sad. fresh paper towel. That one's getting a little sloppy. Darn. Darn. I'm not happy. All of a sudden, not massively pleased with this. Well, I said this might be a short one, and I don't think it's going to be a short one now because I'm taking some time off to do some cleanup. It's going to be a weird VOD, too. Just a hang on, everybody, while I clean up the mess. Exactly the kind of thing that would get cut from a curated, like, edited video. Oh, God. There's so much brine in there, I can pour it out. Okay. Well. Okay, it's dry enough. Dry enough, I'm going to set it aside, propped up so that it can air dry the remaining way. All the spices, I guess, are going to hang out by the sink. And we're going to resume cooking. Where were we? We were here with olives, red onions, my back wall here feels very bare. It doesn't look any different to you, but it feels very bare to me because normally there's a spice rack there. That'll work fine. Quite a lot of capers. Even the jar of capers got wet. Well, they all do this too. It's just when they do it, they go, cut. And you don't see the crew swoop in to do the cleanup. Just make sure the bottoms of these aren't wet. Okay. I guess we're using garlic as well. It got briny. The cutting board, thankfully, like I said, it has little feet on it. It has the little feet on it, so it does not rest flush on the table. So, it wasn't sitting in the brine. I think we're going to use 3 cloves of garlic for this. The recipe calls for 0. So we can't just multiply the cloves of garlic, because 0 times anything is 0. I'm just gonna just gonna crack these with my hand. Oop, cracked that one a little bit too hard with my hand. Well, if you spill your olive juice all over everything, hopefully it was in the middle of your mise en place so that you can stop what you're doing and clean it up. If you're doing it while you're cooking, good luck, because you are going to be distracted and the olive juice is either going to make a big mess, a bigger mess, by flowing around everywhere, or your stuff is going to get away from you. And that is one of the top reasons why you do mise en place, because you don't want to have to stop mid-cook to... Ideally, you don't want to have to stop mid-cook to prep an ingredient, but also, if anything goes wrong, you don't want to have to stop mid-cook and look the other way and get distracted. Jones, Mr. Jones. Hi, welcome. I've already kind of crushed these. I'm going to give them a second little tap. Again, the recipe does not call for garlic, so I don't know how it wants the garlic to be done. So I'm going to go with a coarse chop. I think that is in keeping with the other kind of chunky ingredients. The olives are halved, the onion is diced, the capers are just whole. The tomatoes even aren't going to be really crushed up, they're supposed to be chopped. As always, do not use the blade of your knife as a bench scraper. Even if you know what you're doing, which I kind of do, it's not good for the blade. But also, everybody does it. You shouldn't, but everybody does it. Well, not everybody does it. Some people are good. Some people are good and don't do it, but you shouldn't do it. Little knife, big knife. Onions, garlic. Onions go in first, gets softened. Garlic goes in next. And then the tomatoes, which means we need to open the can and have the tomatoes ready to go. I'm going to rough crush the tomatoes. I'm not going to dice them. We're going to crush them with a spoon. Where's my opener? But how's it going, isosceles? Welcome in. And everyone else, again, how's it going? What's up? I'd love to hear from you. Does the magnet work? No. That's supposed to be a magnet. But it's never strong enough to pull the tops off of these things. We're supposed to use if we're using canned tomatoes, whole canned tomatoes, which is what we've got, like so, with the juice. And it says they should be roughly chopped, which we could do. Peeled tomatoes with juices roughly chopped. See note. Which I would read as like just quartered, like big chunks is what we're looking for. We also need more olive oil. I think we're going to start cooking. I think this is all the ingredients that needed prep. We want to do a vegetable on the side, and we want to do a couscous rice bowl. Okay. How much couscous do we want in our bowl? How much finished couscous do we want in our bowl? That's a good question. How much finished couscous do I want in my bowl? Making Italian salsa. I am making the thing in the title, Agghiotta di Pesce Spada, which we've decided to transform into a katsu-style bowl dish. So we're kind of making an Italian salsa. And we're going to accompany it with a vegetable. And I think we're going with asparagus. We're going with asparagus? I think we're going with asparagus. We're going to build the sauce in the same pan that we used to cook the swordfish. Oh, that's Pesce Spada is swordfish. The question of the moment is how much couscous do we need for this bowl? Because it's going to be this. It's going to be this bowl, which is a very substantial bowl. Because I think it'll be funny to do a Sicilian dish in a Japanese style. Agghiotta di Pesce Spada. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. We need more olive oil, which I left over here. Not that we used a ton of it, but freshen up the olive oil. Yeah. And couscous is going to be the stand-in for rice because I didn't feel like this flavor profile went with rice very well. But you want a ricey thing. We could do orzo. Honestly, orzo is pasta rice. Yeah. So, yeah, join me over here. I've added a little bit of olive oil to that. We're going to put the heat back on. And start it off with its onions. I might have chosen too small of a pan for this in the end. Excuse me. In fact, I'm looking at it now and I'm confident that I've chosen too small of a pan for this. So before it actually gets hot, we're just going to admit that we chose too small of a pan, we're going to switch to a larger pan. I'm also going to admit that this will probably be easier with some nonstick. Should have just started with the large, high-sided stainless. Okay. Probably lost just a smidgen of oil, but I'm going to freshen it up regardless. It says use 5 tablespoons of oil over the course of this whole dish. Part at the beginning with the fish, and then part at the end with the other things. So going kind of a 2 and 2 seems fine. We're going to get this guy heating up. Starting to get warm. Starting to get warm. And then again, I don't think I want to slice or chop my canned tomatoes. I think we're just going to crush them in the pan. Bob, done with baby back ribs for dinner. Now you can say, the Brine Adventures deserves the sub. Well, thank you so much for the sub on a 5-month streak. Streaking right through. Put some pants on. Yeah, the brine, that was an adventure. Like I said, I'm surprised that I haven't made more messes, considering how clumsy I typically am in real life. Adding a little bit of salt to that. Shouldn't need salt, because we're going to be adding olives and capers to it. Which I find are often in recipes, specifically because they didn't have granulated salt. I have cut myself on camera. That has happened. Usually it's quite minor. I haven't done a major, like, slash my hand open on camera. I did once really cut myself quite badly half an hour before stream. As I was doing cleanup ahead of starting, I was cleaning the blade of one of these devices that has razor sharp blades, and I just gashed open my hand, and I canceled stream that day. You guys probably didn't even realize that's why I canceled the stream. Sometimes when I cancel stream, it's because I've gashed my hand open. So, we are sauteing our onion in olive oil. Just a smidge of salt to help it soften. And whatever drippings came out of that swordfish. Ow, hot. Ow, hot. Does it have to be a bashful onion? Ideally, yes. Ideally, it has to be a bashful onion. Now, the recipe I'm following specifically calls for a red onion. I couldn't find a red onion, so I'm using a purple onion, which I think is the next closest thing. Red onions seem very difficult to actually get. That's about searing the fish. Onion. Softened, not browned. And then add the rest. And I'm doing garlic as a separate step. So, garlic. Garlic is coarse chunks, so it will not burn immediately. It gives us a little bit of leeway, but still keep an eye whenever you do garlic. Garlic really likes to burn. I also noticed that it told me to season my fish with salt and pepper and then dredge it in the flour. And I didn't do that. I went right to dredging it in the flour. So, I'm not going to be afraid to add a little bit of extra salt, a little bit of pepper. Bookwoman is making a very classic era Saturday Night Live reference. I wonder how many of the audience actually gets that. Capers and olives going in. Toss these guys around. You know what this is reminding me of is midnight pasta, which I did make on stream once ages and ages ago as part of a larger, it was one of my very first streams. I made midnight pasta. I should do midnight pasta. That'd be a good one to just do as a video because it would be very short. Midnight pasta is delicious. By the way, if you've never had it or heard of it, delicious. Okay, tomatoes. Here's my plan with the tomatoes. This ends my plan with the tomatoes. No, where's my potato smasher? Plan with the tomatoes is this. I'm not mashing them a ton, but I'm making sure that I get all the way through to the bottom so that they kind of break apart. So that we end up with these chunks, which should do a decent imitation of if I had actually diced them or roughly chopped them. Imagine if I knocked over the tomatoes. We could imagine lots of things. Okay, yeah. Yeah, they're not like in weird strings. They're in kind of rough chunks. We're going to bring the heat up because we need this to come to a simmer. And cook the rawness out of our tomatoes. You don't really want that raw tomato flavor in a dish like this. Not that I know this specific dish, but in dishes like this, you typically don't want that raw tomato flavor. It'll also soften up that one tomato that was definitely a little on the underripe side when they canned it. Looking very chunky. This super would not have fit in that other pan. Now that I'm looking at it, very much would not have fit in that other pan. So good thing I changed pans. Should have picked a bigger pan to start with. And you, following along at home, should go back to step 1 and pick a larger pan instead of this pan. Or instead of that starting pan. Yeah, we're going to simmer this. Oh, I missed a... little bit of tomato there. So we're going to simmer this. We want it to soften up. This doesn't need to live over here anymore. I'm glad I didn't put the fish over here before all that caper nonsense. I didn't put any wine in there. I was going to put the wine in before the tomatoes, but I guess we don't need a deglazing step. I will serve this with wine instead. We could go with a Cabernet Sauvignon. We could go with my most recent favorite wine, Vermouth Bianco. White vermouth. It's like vanilla wine. Putting a little bit of pepper. These things always say salt and pepper to taste. I love pepper, and I actually like to have the pepper infused. I'm also surprised at how this doesn't ask for any other spices. I don't want to go that far off the pale from the recipe because I am quite interested in how this is going to turn out. I assume the capers and the olives are meant to provide that complexity, and that we deliberately want a kind of a simpler sauce to accompany our swordfish. Also, adding pepper because I did not salt and pepper my fish, so it is unpeppered. And the suggestion of pepper there means that they intend there to be some pepper in the dish. While this is simmering, I'm going to take the heat down a little bit. While this is simmering, what are we doing for our vegetable? Which again has to fit in the bowl, in this bowl, alongside the couscous, the sauce, and some sliced up swordfish. This bowl. So I'm thinking maybe just 3 spears of asparagus. I've got some asparagus. It's not as nice as the last time we got asparagus. They're getting a little bit skinnier. They aren't those really fat ones I had at the beginning of spring, even though they are literally the same brand. Asparagus. So we'll take out some of the nicer, larger asparaguses here. Some of these are really skinny. I probably wouldn't even have picked this one. Look at that thing. Look at that thing. Just a disappointing asparagus. 4 of them? 4 decently sized asparaguses. Break them off at their break point, which that one's already at. There, made them all the same length. Scoop up, because I don't have a ton of room to do a big batch of asparagus in that bowl. But I think asparagus is a good accompaniment. I quite like asparagus too. We're just off recipe at this point. Let's see. Cook, stirring until the tomatoes are broken down. The liquid is thickened. About 5 minutes. Season with salt. Salt at the beginning. If desired, add some vinegar and sugar to balance the flavors. Okay, we will take that into account and taste once our stuff here has started to thicken up a little bit. Braise the asparagus in the sauce. We could braise the asparagus in the sauce. We're currently planning on braising the swordfish in the sauce. Sure. That sounds reasonable. I'm going to pack up the rest of these asparaguses. Sparrow grasses. I'm going to give us a cut like that. I'm going to give us a cut like that because I think it'll help with the fitting them in at the end. We're going to keep this knife handy. This knife is going to be the knife. The other knife might be the knife I use for slicing the meat. Because I want, like, a fan of slices. Okay. That is going to cut down on our cleanup, too, which I don't mind today. After all, I've just created a bunch of cleanup. Trying to position these so that they will braise but not sink, so that I can get them out of there again. Okay, so braising our asparagus in our liquid, which will give us a little bit of an infusion of asparagus-y flavor. This means we're going to simmer this at least until the asparagus has softened. And we didn't settle on how much couscous we want. I'm gonna overshoot. I'm gonna make a cup of couscous, which will make quite a lot of finished couscous. And I feel like it'll be too much, but I'd rather have too much and not use it all. Than not enough and wish I had more and not have a quick way to whip it up. So here's the quick way to make couscous. You were going to say a cup and a quarter. Interesting. I've got a cup and a quarter of water in there, which we're going to bring to a boil. More than one meal, yes, but I can make couscous very quickly on the fly tomorrow. So there's that. Quick way to make couscous. It's a 1-to-1 ratio of couscous to water. I added just a smidgen more water because some of it is going to boil off as it gets up to temp. So I'm just accounting for that with just it was just a splash. It's probably just a tablespoon of water extra. And then I'm going to throw a cup of dry couscous in there and slap a lid on it. So the pot you want to use should have a lid. Because then it'll absorb all that water and form what is ideally a nice fluffy couscous. I've got you guys on 2 screens, and on the main screen I can read Bob just fine. On this screen, your name is such a dark shade of blue that it is blending into the black background. Which is intense. But yes, definitely more than one meal's worth here, just based on this. Just based on this. This thing is more than one meal's worth. You don't do well on left side monitors. I'm going to give us a flipperoo. Asparagus does not take terribly long to cook. We just want it to be not crunchy. We want it to be tender. We don't want to overdo it because it also goes soggy real easy. Last time we cooked asparagus, we did overshoot it. Although those asparaguses were also huge, so it was fine. They survived, even though I overshot them. These skinnier ones, I am more worried about not wanting to overshoot them. Let me taste our sauce. Here's a wrinkle. I think that sauce, I think those tomatoes might have been in that can too long. There's just a hint of a metallic taste. Just a hint. That water's boiling. So, ½ cup, 1 whole cup. Get it all wet, take it off the heat, put the top on, and that's how you make couscous. Oh, I had the camera the wrong way around. Well, I put a cup of couscous in my boiling water, and made sure it was all wet. Slapped the lid on, took it off the heat. Done. As my mother would say, Bob's your uncle. Put the couscous away. We don't need it anymore. So I think I'm going to adjust the flavors of my sauce with the vinegar and the sugar just a little bit, because there is that just hint of a metallic tang in there. Again, probably because if I check the date on this can of tomatoes, it likely says used by such and such time. That is a time in the past. Best by September 2024. So yeah, we're a couple months out of that. We're a little bit out of that. Acidic things like tomatoes don't keep in cans. I mean, it's not like it's harmful, but they don't keep in cans as well as non-acidic things, simply because of the fact that they are acidic and in a can. They put a coating on cans to keep them from doing that, but you can't keep it out forever. Really, if you're canning tomatoes, you should be doing it in glass. Glass is inert. Keep it away from the lids. The spear tops are definitely cooked, and I want to get them out of that juice. The stem parts could probably stand just a little bit more. I'm going to pull them too. I'm going to pull them as well, because I really want to stir my stuff here. Okay, that guy is also getting a lid put on him. We're going to stir this together. heat back up. Definitely taking a little bit longer than the recipe suggested for the juices to thicken. Juices to thicken. But that was possibly because I wasn't stirring and the juices were sort of rising to the top. We have lost a noticeable amount of volume. Tasting spoon. Now that I've stirred it through, let's give it a taste or two. I'm going to give us our vinegar and sugar. Stir that in, see what that tastes like. I might also ask the old internet for a quick bit of advice because I don't fully know how to mitigate the flavor I'm tasting in here. So, to the internet. How to sugar and acid, which I've added both to. Let's give it a taste. That actually helps a lot. Let me add a little bit more, just a smidge more. I'm not going to add baking soda at this point because our thing is quite on the acid side as it is. Instead, I'm going to go with the acid and sugar addition to it. Lesson is, don't hang on to canned tomatoes super long after their date. They will take on a little bit of an off flavor that you'll then have to fight with. Most canned things don't do that. It's only really canned acidic things, or things that have been canned improperly. And it's also why you shouldn't do metal canning. Well, one of quite a lot of reasons why you shouldn't do canning in metal vessels at home. It's still there if I focus on it. It's not really prominent though, so I'm going to say probably as good as I'm going to get it. Adding a little bit more black pepper. It's not a real prominent flavor anymore. I have to really focus on it. And I think with everything else going on, we'll be fine. But it's a concern. It's definitely a concern with your canned tomatoes. Don't, I would say, for canned tomatoes, don't buy a big stock of them and hang on to them because they won't keep forever in the cans. We're going to bring that down. We don't want it boiling. We want it just barely simmering. We're going to put the fish in there. We're going to check on our couscous soon. We're going to move that off of there. I want to bring this down from actively bubbling to just barely bubbling. To just barely bubbling. If I had baking soda that now, it would fizz. That burner is going to smell great. I put spatulas on burners specifically because I know that I can just turn the burner on and it'll burn off any drips. Except, not very long ago, that turned into a fire because I had dripped too much oil. It had developed enough of a pool underneath the burner that it was not able to smoke off and instead reached its flash point, burst into flames, and I had a grease fire right here in my kitchen on this burner up here on the top, this one. It was after that last time we did a big deep fry. It was the cleanup from the deep fry. So don't do that. This one will be fine. There was no real drips. There's a few little bits of tomato on there. But yeah, you guys didn't get to see that. That was during my, well, it wasn't even on a stream day. It was later. Okay, that's looking, it's not actively bubbling. It's thickened up. The other place I prop my spatula is over on the edge of the sink so that if it does drip, it drips directly into the sink. Bringing back our big piece of cheese. Both sides look pretty good. The side that was down got a little bit wet from its own steam, so I think that's the side that's going to go in the stuff here. We kind of nestle in our big piece of cheese. Doesn't it look like a big piece of cheese? I suppose you have to understand what bread cheese is, because it looks like bread cheese specifically. The cheese of the sea. Yes, it's the cheese of the sea. And then we are going to braise this until it has warmed back up to an eating temperature. Let's check on our couscous. It has absorbed all of its water. It has absorbed all of its water. And that's it. Nice and fluffy. It's a tiny smidge dry. Couscous always comes out a tiny smidge dry. It really needs a topping, a sauce. Which we have. Amazing. Almost like I planned this. Wouldn't it be weird if I planned one of these, like, in its entirety? Instead of not. instead of half-assing the entire thing from start to finish. I'm tucking my sauce up against the sides of the fish. Sorry, cheese. And yeah, now we just play the waiting game. I'm not going to use this wooden board to cut that fish. We're going to use, and it's really until it's warm, just until it's warm. Because again, I don't want it to cook it anymore. It got down to a pretty solid room temp while it was resting. I can start plating a little bit while that braises, while that lightly braises. Okay, that looks just about right. A bed of our couscous. Oh, the pine nuts, which got put to somewhere because I was distracted by the brine spill. There were supposed to be some... Oops. There were supposed to be some pine nuts in our sauce. Sauce. So those can go in now. We'll parsley at the end. My phone just made a noise. What did my phone say? Dunno. I don't know. It's not telling me. Nope, my friends are going to a movie. I will not be joining them because I'm here doing this. The top of the fish is not hot, but I'm concerned if I go too much longer, the bottom of the fish will be overcooked. So, I'm gonna pull it. It says this can be served cold. Heat off. Fish. Depanning. Oh, it's a thick piece of fish. Oh, I forgot how thick it was. It was only in there a minute and I forgot how thick it was. Stir in the pine nuts. Leave that on a very low heat. Let's see how this fish came out. I want a piece that I can fan. So like, here. Oh, it's very tomatoey on the bottom. It looks good though. In the middle, it looks rare. Let's get these tomatoes away from here though. I must have crushed one of the tomatoes directly under the fish when I put it in the pan. Which makes sense because I just kind of press it down. I had hoped that it would push all of them to the sides. But I want to cut that piece into a nice fan. That one doesn't have any tomato underneath it. And ideally, the fish being on the rare side will mean that we won't get it flaking apart really badly as I slice it here. I shouldn't be sawing these like this. I should be doing one long smooth stroke. Yes, rare is what I was going for. Swordfish is a very firm fish, and we got a very thick piece. So for something like this, and I would do the same with shark, and I would do the same with like a really big, thick piece of tuna, like an inch thick piece of tuna. You cook it rare. You cook it like steak. You want it to be rare because it'll get really unpleasant, chalky flavor or texture, and it'll lose a lot of its flavor if you cook it all the way. So yes, we wanted and we're deliberately going for really quite rare. Like when you see a seared tuna with the bright pink tuna in the middle, we're going for that, except swordfish flesh is pale white to begin with, so you don't get that bright pink middle. Also, you're right, it does look a lot like a piece of pork, but it's definitely fish. It's definitely hot too. We could have left it in there maybe even a little bit longer than I did. I don't think we were in much danger of overcooking the interior. It seems like the interior was well shielded by the sheer size of this piece of meat. feel like I want something in the middle there. I feel like something needs to go in the middle there. Or possibly that all the asparagus wants to go to one side. I think all the asparagus wants to go to one side. That's my plating. That's my plating. I'm gonna give us a little sprig of parsley if my parsley's any good. I'm growing parsley now, so I will have garden fresh parsley for future parsleying needs. I actually might cut that now. The parsley in here is getting kind of yellow. I might actually cut some of my fresh parsley now. A couple of olives. It's actually not a terrible idea. I know it was a joke. It's not a terrible idea. Come out here. Oh, the neighbors broke their bed. Come out here, take a sprig or two of fresh parsley. And, oop, that part of that basil, because that part of that basil is tempting to flower already. The basil got really stressed with the wild temperature swings, and one of them is trying to flower already, and it's only May. A little flower head on that guy already. We don't want that to happen. Here's some garden fresh parsley. I'll just nip the stem bit off. That one has a smidgen of, oh, I tore it. Smidgen of soil on it. We'll brush the soil off, snip the stem. I don't want to cover up that bit. Freshly cracked black pepper, a sprinkle of our crunchy sea salt, and I think we call that thing. Yeah, my wild swings in temperature, especially when it went from very hot to very cold. Definitely stressing them out. None of them have gone full-on wilty on me, but they have definitely been looking a little sad. So keep an eye on that. Keeping in mind the angle at which I'll be photographing this, I don't think that bare patch in the front is going to be a problem. And then chopsticks. And then chopsticks. I do see a sauce spot that needs to be cleaned there. There. You want a nice clean plate for your fancy plating. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. I think that looks pretty good. I think the blue will accent. I think the blue will accent it. Let's get our photos taken. We can think about a name for this beast. Oh, my phone was out here, and I brought it in with the kitchen, where it does not need to be. Okay. Photos taken, coming back, crossing, crossing. Just push that guy up there. And onto the tasting. Here we go. Here we go with the fun part. I am most interested to taste a piece of swordfish. So, right off the top, we're going to grab the first one. Mmm. Mmm. God damn, that's good. In the past, I have had swordfish, but I've only, like Ryu has mentioned once, up there somewhere, I've only ever found the really thin ones, and in order to get them cooked, you can't keep the middles rare. In order to get, just dropped my chopstick on the ground. This is the worst, this is the clumsiest day I think I've had. Well, I'm not going to use those. I'll use the other ones that I was already using. In order to get that crust on the outside, you end up cooking them a lot more on the inside. You can see even on just a piece here, the cooked, like the well-cooked layer goes in. And if it was just that much thinner, those would meet in the middle. That middle is tender. It's got an almost buttery flavor to it. Mmm. And I think the mass of it has also helped keep the outer surface from overshooting. Oh, I got some pepper in my throat. From overshooting, because it is absolutely not that sort of tough, chalky texture that I have definitely hit with trying to cook swordfish, shark, and tuna in the past. Oh, it's really good. It's really on point. Like I said a little bit ago, swordfish, any of the really big, strong swimming fish, so your swordfish, your tuna, your sharks, anything else that's in that sort of big predator fish realm, they have really dense muscles, and it ends up meaning that you cook them like you do with steak. And boy, it really makes a big difference to cook it like this. It's really good. It's super good. I'm going to taste our couscous with our sauce. I'm a little worried the sauce has still got that metallic tang to it. So let's find out. When it's all together, it is still there. It is definitely still there. When it's all together with everything else, you don't notice it until right at the very end. It is the weakest of the flavors, but it lingers just a little bit So I'm still getting a hint of that kind of weirdly off metallic taste in there, but it's right at the end, so it's not really going to spoil my enjoyment overall. But it's definitely a little bit of a sour note. Not actually a sour note because we added acid to this, so it would be a little bit sour, but which, oh well. Asparagus is asparagus. Tender, crisp. Man, these flavors are going. These flavors really go. These flavors really go. Let's try a little bit of everything. So we can probably break. No, we can't quite break it with our chopsticks. But if we take a bit of our couscous, sauce olives, so the sauce is sweet and acidic and salty and savory. So the sauce has a lot going on. It's very bright. It's very fruit forward. And there's a little tail of metallic at the end, which is very unfortunate. Because other than that, it's bright. It's fruity. It really and it's not really intense, which is good because the rich flavor of the swordfish is not itself very intense. And a really strongly flavored sauce would cover it up. So despite this being quite acidic and salty, it's not, and bright and fruity, it's not drowning out the swordfish, which probably is also a testament to the swordfish just being such a nice flavor. Ooh, this is way, way better than any swordfish I've done before. I will definitely keep my eye out for swordfish, big, thick pieces like this in the future. I would almost say it's not worth it to get thin slices because you can't cook it rare like this without undershooting the outside severely. Also, gosh, it's tasty enough. I wonder. It reminds me. Tell you what it reminds me of. It reminds me of yellowtail sushi or sashimi, which is a similarly colored fish, the flesh-wise, and it's typically just given the thinnest sear on the outside, so that it is still raw in the middle and then sliced thinly. I feel like you could do that with swordfish and it would work the same way because that's the kind of flavor I'm getting. I think that's why I like it so much. That seared yellowfin is top, I'd say top 3 sushi. It's competing with some other ones that are way more expensive than it, in my book. But this is a winner. This is a winner. For $5, well, all told, all together, this meal probably was $10 between the fish, can of tomatoes. Yeah, pretty affordable. I never really do price breakdowns. That's not my thing. But you know, something fancy, $47.50. It's pretty good. I need a spoon because of the couscous. I think if I served this the way it was originally intended, which is not even sliced like this, just a steak with the sauce and a vegetable on the side, It'd be really good. This would be if I could see serving this at a fancy restaurant. It's real good. And that said, I'm going to want to eat it while it's still warm. So I think we're gonna wrap here, ship you guys out, and I'm gonna finish nomming on this delicious thing. Um, let's see who's on. Let's see who's on. Hmm. Oh, it's So Everdream's birthday, so I'm gonna go there. Assuming he's not wrapping up now. So we're going there. Uh, so Everdream, he's been kind enough to rate us in the past. Also, I hang out in his channel less often these days, but formerly quite a lot. I'm sure many of you will recognize him. He has done some cooking, and if you cajole him enough, he might do some cooking again. Um, but his mainline stuff is games. He's currently playing Repo. He's loud, he's chaotic, he's really very extremely different from my vibes here. So let's all go wish him a happy birthday. Because apparently it's his birthday today. I did not realize that. Um, so yeah. Thanks for showing up, sticking with me, bearing with the big disaster. We had a full-fledged mess disaster. But everything worked out in the end. The food is delicious. No, thank you. And yeah, I don't have anything specific planned for next week. So feel free to drop suggestions of what you'd like to see. Discord links at the top of chat. See you next time. There's our countdown already. Bye.